He would love nothing more than to divide our country based on race, religion, gender, orientation, or immigration status. Because this is the only way he knows he can prevent the solidarity of us working together across all of our differences.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you for your courage to be here, because in the society that we live in today, it takes a lot of courage to say that you're supporting President Trump. And you know, it's really quite interesting how people have tried to manipulate people and how to intimidate people and change their minds. This has been going on since we've been in America.
4 years now, a common narrative has been repeated over and over by major media voices. Question it, and suddenly you're cast as a problem. Support certain figures, and you're quickly judged as having the wrong values. This constant repetition isn't accidental. It seems designed to discourage people from digging deeper or verifying facts on their own. Over time, hearing the same messages repeatedly can make opinions feel like undeniable truths, even when no evidence truly supports them. In politics, there's a well-known pattern. False claims spread quickly, while the truth often takes time to catch up. Serious labels and accusations can slowly gain acceptance simply because enough people repeat them, giving the impression they're official or unquestionable. But facts work differently. They don't need emotional appeals or loud talking points to carry weight. When someone takes a step back and examines the evidence carefully, reality becomes clear. Moments like these show the power of clear, deliberate thinking. When you slow down and focus on verified information, heated arguments and misleading claims quickly lose their influence that if you value truth over slogans and sound bites. This is an important reminder to pause and think critically. And if you know someone who still mistakes repetition for proof, sharing this perspective can help keep the conversation rooted in reality and encourage people to look beyond headlines and hype.
Back to the days of slavery, you know, and in a lot of the states there were more slaves than there were owners. So what did they do? They had to divide the slaves. So they told the ones in the house, you're better than the ones in the yard. And the ones in the yard, you're better than the ones in the field. And then after slavery was over, the light-skinned ones, you're better than the dark-skinned ones. And on it went, trying to divide people. Today, they say, if you are a conservative, then you are somehow an Uncle Tom, you're a horrible person, you're a demon. What a bunch of crap, you know, but you know, it's been going on for hundreds of years. And it's really time to put a stop to it. So I am very happy to see that you have the courage to come out. You know, it doesn't bother me anymore because, you know, I only worry about what God thinks. I don't worry about what these other people think. But you know, sometimes people ask me, what happened to you? You changed. I haven't changed. I changed about 35 years ago because, you see, I grew up in Detroit, a bastion of liberalism. They call it progressivism now. They keep changing the name. But anyway, then from there to Boston, a bastion of liberalism. Back to Detroit, and then to New Haven, Connecticut, a bastion of liberalism, and then to Ann Arbor, Michigan, a bastion of liberalism, and then to Baltimore, Maryland, a bastion of liberalism. So I had no chance. I was a liberal. I was way out there. And then I did something that liberals are never supposed to do. I listened to a conservative. I listened to Ronald Reagan. And I said, you know, he doesn't sound like a horrible racist person. He sounds just like my mother. And at that point, I started thinking for myself. And that made a big difference. It made a big difference in my medical career, too. I didn't do what everybody else did. I always started thinking out of the box. How do you solve this problem? And that's the reason that God gave us these complex brains. Your brain has billions and billions of neurons, hundreds of billions of interconnections. It remembers everything you've ever seen, everything you've ever heard. It can process more than 2 million bits of information in 1 second. Would God give you something like that just so that you can be a sheep and follow what somebody else tells you to do, or to think for yourself? And You know, don't you find it fascinating that so many people say the president's a racist? He's a horrible racist and everything he does. Well, you know, it seems to me like some years ago, Jesse Jackson actually gave the president an award in New York City because he opened so many opportunities for black people. Is that what a racist does? And then when he moved to Palm Beach, he was right on the forefront to fighting the clubs who were not admitting Jews and blacks. Does that sound like what a racist would do? He is the one who finally got the Second Chance Act done. Does that sound like what a racist would do? When he took office, he brought the office of HBCUs to the White House so it could get appropriate attention, more money than ever. Opportunity zones so that people could take this money and direct it to the places where people did not have opportunities before. An economy where you have the lowest unemployment rates for black people in history. And it goes on and on and on. Let me tell you something. If he's a racist, he's an awfully bad one. He needs to go get a lesson from the real racists. The people who look at somebody like you and me and they say, because your skin is a certain color, you have to think a certain way. And if you don't, there's something wrong with you. And they start calling you names. Those are the real racists. But you know, the president believes that a rising tide lifts all boats. He doesn't believe in identity politics, and that's why he's doing things that work for everybody. And we should be happy about that. And the media, they like to pick on him, any little thing. You know, he's not perfect. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. The only one who ever was perfect was Jesus, and they crucified him. So, you know, think about this. And we need to just look at the big picture. Think about all the incredible things that are happening. Think for ourselves and be missionaries. Go out and talk to your family, talk to your friends, help them to realize, because see, if all they're doing is looking at certain media, they don't even know about these things that we just talked about that he has done. And so they can perpetrate this horrible image of him being a bad person. It is absolutely not true. I work with him all the time. He's a wonderful person. He's become a good friend. You remember during the campaign when we were having a debate and I couldn't hear my name. I came out, I stood there, I was waiting to hear everybody else gleefully walk past. He was the only one who stood with me until they
Ilhan Omar opens with a claim familiar to many, that Donald Trump gains power by sowing division, turning Americans against each other along lines of race, religion, and identity. This narrative has become so common that it's often accepted without question. Yet what happens next rarely gets the attention it deserves. Ben Carson responds in a way few expect. He doesn't raise his voice, attack anyone, or chase sound bites. Instead, he calmly lays out his argument, step by step. That measured approach immediately shifts the conversation from emotion to understanding. Carson reminds listeners that division has long been a tool used to control populations throughout history. From early America to today's politics, leaders have directed people on who to oppose, how to think, and what to believe. Carson connects this history directly to the present. Conservatives, especially black conservatives, often face harsh labels when their views diverge from mainstream political narratives. He explains these accusations thoughtfully and without drama, which makes his points even harder to dismiss. Then he turns to evidence. If Trump truly held hateful views, Carson argues, the historical record would tell a different story. Long before his presidency, Trump received recognition from civil rights leaders for supporting opportunities for black Americans. He challenged discriminatory practices in private clubs, backed policies to improve economic conditions, and as president, signed criminal justice reform. He increased funding for historically black colleges and universities, invested in struggling communities, and presided over record-low unemployment rates for black workers. These are concrete outcomes, verifiable facts, not campaign slogans. Carson delivers a key insight that reframes the entire debate. Real prejudice isn't about disagreement or political differences. It's about telling people they must think a certain way because of their background and attacking them if they don't. This point struck a chord because it directly challenges an argument often left unexamined. Carson never attacks Omar personally. He doesn't need to. By focusing on principles and measurable results, he exposes the flaws in the accusation itself. This moment matters because it shows what happens when popular narratives are held up against real-world evidence. Loud claims fade when confronted with clear facts. When arguments based on identity collide with measurable outcomes, the outcomes speak for themselves. It's not flashy or sensational, but it's profoundly effective. And that's why this exchange continues to resonate with so many people today.